Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, you probably saw in the watch news all over YouTube, Tag Heuer have re-released the F1 with collaboration with a fashion label, Kith, I think they're called. Anyway, the Tag Heuer F1, my friend's got the original one, and I went to see it the other day. Before I even knew about this re-release, we were just looking at his watches, and I remember when he got this, you know, I've known him since he was a kid, and he got this Tag Heuer F1 with the green face and the stainless steel Jubilee style bracelet, and he loved it. He wore it for absolute years until the bezel was extremely worn, and he fairly recently, when he was in Spain, he managed to source a new bezel for it and put that on, had it all cleaned up and serviced, and it looks like brand new. And he's actually thinking of selling it at the moment because of all the publicity over the new tag that's coming out. He thought he might be able to get perhaps a better price for this watch. He's not wearing it anymore, but it's got quite a lot of sentimental value to him. Anyway, the first thing that struck me about it is it's a tiny watch. I never used to think about it back in the day when he wore it. I just loved it. Was very jealous of his Tag Heuer. And but looking at it today, or the other day, I thought, crikey, this thing's tiny. So that got me thinking. And also, when you look at the videos about the Tag Heuer release, a lot of people are talking about the fact that it's tiny. Now, I think watch fashion is changing. Watches are becoming a bit smaller. That is becoming a bit more fashionable. So the reason for this video is to talk about what can you get away with? What can you wear? Can we wear small watches again? Now, I've got some vintage watches here and some not so vintage watches. And I've got some small, relatively small watches here, which I'll show you in a minute. And some of these are probably smaller than the Tag, which is, I think, a 35mm. Some of these are more like 30mm. So I don't know. The problem is you get used to wearing a big watch, then you put a smaller watch on and it looks tiny. So a lot of it is perspective, what you're getting used to. Because we used to wear these smaller watches back in the day and no one thought anything of it. And perhaps if someone put a larger watch on, you think that thing looks huge. So I don't know, a lot of it is getting used to it. I'm sure there are guys with huge wrists that perhaps it just looks like a child's watch. But then there are lots of people who will, for instance, happily wear the F91W. That I have here, and now this isn't a large watch, so that one is what that is 35. Is that right? Hang on, sorry, 30. That's 30mm across. So not a lot of difference between that and the Tag. So this little one here I bought a while back for a few pounds off eBay, a little Rex Hora, a beautiful Swiss movement. And this is another thing, I've just got my watches out because I'm giving them a wind. I haven't done it for a while, and the ones that can be wound, I've been giving them a wind. And it's a good job because the Longines there, another small watch, wasn't, in fact, has it stopped again? Yeah. It's getting a bit sticky. I got it working. It needs a wind. I think if you leave them too long, that's when they start to gum up. I'm sure that will work again with a little shake. I've just given that a slight shake because this was working perfectly. So when I went to it, I wound it and it stopped. And you can see it's stopping again. So it's on that limit now. It probably could do with service. And I've only had this, how long have I had this? About a year now. But I've been working hard last couple of weeks or so, and I just haven't got round to winding them. Yeah, so it's definitely getting a bit sticky. So that's the thing. They need to be wound, they need to be working, and just like a car, if you don't leave it too long and you keep the thing working every once in a while, give it a wind every couple of weeks, let it run, it's much more likely or less likely to seize up, basically. The longer you leave it not working, the mechanism isn't turning. Obviously, when it does go to work, then it could seize up if the oil's got a bit dry or any debris has moved around. I'm pleased to say the rest of them are all working. I'm sure that the Longines will work with a bit more time and effort. Keep giving it a shake. Hopefully it will free itself up and work as it was. So back to what I was talking about, the size of the watches. Where do I start? So we're very much used to having watches which are perhaps 40mm on our wrists now. I mean, 40mm is kind of like the most average size, I would say now. So there we have an Invicta Speedway. That's a 40mm, and that is pretty much perfect for my wrist. I have a 6.5-inch wrist, but when you're wearing something even bigger than that, so my Invicta Pro Diver is a 42. So that one's a 42mm. Again, that one hasn't been worn for a while, needs a bit of a shake. Compared to that little Rex Horror, it dwarfs it. So you have a watch which was perfectly acceptable back in 1950s, 1960s, 1940s. These were the sizes. They did do some larger sizes, but that was your kind of go-to size. And that was perfectly acceptable. But now a lot of men would look at that and say, oh, I'm not wearing that, it's too small. But I think a lot of that is perspective, and because you're used to seeing these big, large, blingy watches. Perhaps if fashion changes slightly, a lot of the more old style money look is coming back in. So people are kind of turning their back a little bit on the real blingy kind of look, and people are going back to a more simple style that was fashionable perhaps in the 40s and 50s. There's a lot more about that in fashion. Women are doing it, men are doing it. So if you've got a lot of money, you're just wearing a couple of colours, very basic, no designer labels showing or anything like that. And these type of watches would sit very well with that classic type of style again. And I quite like them. I mean, the Tudor I've got, that is slightly, I mean, that's 1946, but that is slightly larger. So that one is a 35. So that is the same size as the Tag, which I think is quite wearable. This little watch here, which hasn't really got a make, it has a Breitling or a movement that's using Breitling's little automatic, but that is tiny, and that is, well, it's not, I mean, they do become smaller than this, so that's 32, 33mm, and this little West End one, let's try to find the smallest one I've got. So that one, again, that's a 30mm. I thought I had one smaller than 30, but perhaps not. So it looks like 30 is pretty much the smallest. I mean, this is a wartime watch. I mean, that is a tank style one, and men were happily wearing these, obviously in the 1930s, 40s. And that's only 25mm across, but it presents bigger because lengthwise it's 30, even more with the lugs. And the little Longines, which is starting to work again. Yeah, I mean, it's about a 33, about a 33. I've got it fully wound, so it's definitely deciding it wants to have a holiday and not work. Go on, work. It's been working perfectly for a year, but I never wear it. It just sits in the box, so it's just one that I will occasionally wind. Beautiful watch, love it. And then the first vintage watch I ever bought was this Bulova. And I remember when I got this, because I've been used to wearing the larger Invicta, this seemed very small. And that is about 33mm. So if I show you what that one looks like on my wrist. So before I do that, just quickly, out of kind of interest. I've been working in a property all week and I needed a watch I didn't mind getting paint and whatnot on it. So I pulled this out and I bought that from eBay. It's an Eagle Moss, real cheap Chinese thing. They gave these away in a magazine. There was a series of magazines which had military watches in them. So you bought the magazine and you got the watch free. This was the one with the field watch. It didn't have this strap on it. So I bought this secondhand from eBay. It wasn't working. I think I paid £2 for it. And I put this cheap NATO style strap with it. But this has been my go-to watch when I've been working in a property today. If you look closer, you'll probably see some flecks of paint and dirt and things like that. And it's brilliant. I can see the time. Two, I don't have to worry about getting paint or dirt or anything like that on it. You know, it's cost me a couple of pounds. It actually looks nice. And it's just one of those things, isn't it funny? You find it's ever so cheap and people will slag this watch off. And I've really enjoyed wearing this watch this week. I'm not having to worry about it. Really useful. Now, I wouldn't immerse it in water. Ever so comfortable. And I know I can clean that paint off and I could put the watch strap in a washing machine if I wanted to. And it would probably come up pretty new again. So there you go, a couple of quid watch, really enjoying wearing that. I could have worn my F91W, but I didn't want to mess it up. It's too pristine. I mean, that's only a £10 watch, but I didn't want to mess it up with paint and whatnot. So I pulled this bad boy out and it's doing a good job. So yeah, don't say no to a Eagle Moss cheapie if you just want something, you know, when you're doing dirty jobs, but you still want to look stylish. You don't have to worry about it. Superb. So let's try. So this one, for instance, is, crikey, 40 millimeters. That's another reason I like it. I need reading glasses to read now. And when I glance down at my watch, I can see that without reading glasses very nicely. So the difference between that on my 6.5-inch wrist. So let's do the little Rex Hora, because that pretty much presents itself as one of the smaller watches that I've got. It's got a Fixo Flex original strap there. This was a couple of quid from eBay, this watch. It didn't cost me much at all. It wasn't working properly. I think I put a drop of lighter fluid in there and it's working okay. It's actually, out of all my little watches, it works okay. So there we go. It's a small watch. You can see my hand. I've got quite big hands. I think it looks all right. It's just getting used to having a smaller watch on your wrist. But I don't think it looks bad. I don't think there's anything effeminate about it. I'm not going to say it's a child's watch or a woman's watch. These were worn by men, gentlemen, in the era for many, many years, and they were happy about them. They never gave them a second thought that they were too small. So I think we need to maybe embrace a smaller watch, try them, get used to them. It's like anything. When you go from one thing to another that's dramatically different, immediately you're going to think, oh, that's too small. But I guarantee you, if you wore that watch for a week and then you put the Invicta on, you're going to think the Invicta's huge. Because I know I wore this for a few days and I went back to a bigger watch and immediately you're thinking, wow, this watch is huge, because you get used to a smaller watch on your wrist. So it's quite interesting. And in the same way, I was into motorbikes for many years. I haven't got one at the moment, sold it a couple of years ago. And I was obsessed with large back tyres. I didn't want a motorbike that had a skinny back tyre. That was less manly, you know. So, you know, I had, Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R, and it's got like a 180 rear tyre, a nice big fat 180. I think the R1s are 201s or something, back tyres. And, you know, I used to take the mick out of my mate who had a Honda 500 CB or something, and it only had like a 160 back tyre. And I say, oh, bloody stupid skinny back tyre you got on there. But now it doesn't matter. I've had lots of classic bikes afterwards which had more narrow tyres. And I realise it's silly. You know, it doesn't matter what size the tyre is. It's just a fashion thing. So I'm quite happy. I could quite as happy jump on a Royal Enfield with a fairly skinny back wheel. In fact, I had a Yamaha Fizzy, which has almost like a bicycle back wheel that I was happy riding about on. So you just got to get this kind of size thing out of your mind, embrace all the different sizes, and they wear differently with different outfits, I'm sure. So I'll take that one off. And see, another small one would be the little Bulova, the first one that I purchased. Now this is the same type of watch that Roger Moore wore in the Saint. He wore a few different Bulovas, and that's why I bought this, because I was watching the Saint on TV, the black and white first series, caught his watch, and I actually looked it up online. I thought, what watch is he wearing? That's interesting. It's obviously not James Bond, but it's a similar kind of character. And he wears a couple of watches, but he does rock Bulovas. And I hadn't even heard of the make. So did a little bit of research, found one on eBay, and that was my first vintage watch. And very nice it is too, and got a good deal on it. I think I paid about £25 for it. Let's pop that on. Now the thing with this watch is it came with a little leather strap, if I remember rightly, that was a bit broken up. So I took it off and I popped this NATO style strap on. And this Bulova is extremely slim. You can probably see there. Very, very, very slim watch. So not only is it a small watch, it's a very slim watch as well. So I think this strap at least bulks it out slightly because it makes it sit a little bit higher. So with the leather strap on, it's really flat to your wrist. So with this strap, I think it gives it a little bit more presence. It's still not a huge watch, but I think it's pretty stylish. Why not wear that on occasion? Yeah, if you've got a huge wrist, perhaps it's going to look a bit lost. I think if you've got an average size wrist, you could not only get away with it, it's a nice looking watch. It would certainly look good with a suit on or something like that. So here's one of the latest watches I bought. Little West End Company Swiss watch. Beautiful little thing with a blue dial and this gold sun and battens, Arabic date. But again, it's a small watch, 30mm across. And you've got this interesting, quite rare apparently, metal bracelet which just clips in. I forget what they're called. Someone in the comments told me what this was called and I have to go back and look at it. Now, it's a very pretty watch. Would I wear it? I don't know. This, out of all of them, does look quite dinky. I think because of the dark dial, it makes it look even a bit smaller. But it's pretty stylish. I quite like it. So here we have the beautiful Longines, which is now working. I have to gave it a couple of sharp taps on the back. I think something is sticking. That seems to have made it unstick, and now it seems to be working okay. So another reason to wind your watches regularly. So let's hope that carries on, because it was working perfectly. So I wonder if something got a little bit stuck in the works, and a couple of sharp taps, although a bit of a risk, seems to have got it freed up and working nicely. So this is another 30mm size, and it appears even smaller because of the strap is very thin and fine, which doesn't help beef the watch out at all, but it is a beautiful looking watch. And why not wear it and enjoy it? It would have certainly looked good back in the day. And it does seem to be working okay now. So hopefully that's fixed the issue. If in doubt, hit it with a hammer. No, I didn't hit it with a hammer, but I did give it a couple of sharp knocks on the back. Not overdoing it, but it seems to have done the job. So if we can compare that to the Tudor, which is a 35, although an older watch is slightly bigger, I'll show you what that looks like. And there you go, the 35mm looking larger now compared to those 30mm, which I think is not a bad size for my wrist. 35 I can wear. And as I said, you can wear the smaller ones. They are just noticeably smaller compared to modern watches. Don't know if there's anything wrong with that. And this is the little 99p eBay purchase I made. It's a small automatic, 30mm across. Very interesting watch. The automatic movement is the same that's used in some of the early Breitling watches. It's 17 joules on the face, but the actual movement itself, I think, says 21 joules. So it's a bit of a mismatch. But for 99p, I think it's quite a safe buy. I've never worn it. I think I wore it once, actually. I did wear it once. And again, with this military style strap, that does bulk it out a little bit better. So even though it's a small watch, it has a bit more presence because these straps just bulk the size of the watch out slightly compared to, say, the Longines thin strap, which doesn't help make it look any bigger. So there you go, guys, just really showing you some of my smaller vintage watches, which I think can still be worn today, and many people do enjoy this size. And with all the publicity of the Tag Heuer, which is a 35mm, and many people saying it's too small to wear, they're just going to keep it in their collection. Well, I'm like, no, don't keep it in your collection, wear it, get used to it. After you wear it for a couple of days, other watches will actually seem larger when you put them on. When you go from that straight back to a large watch, of course, there's going to be a big difference. But they're just different styles, and that's what it is. And before I go, just to show you an in-between size. So this is my Tissot C-Star, which is approximately 37mm across, which is a really nice size for my 6.5-inch wrist. It's like Goldilocks. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's kind of like the perfect size. And that's a 1970s watch. I happily wear this. So there you go. Something to think about. Why not wear these smaller watches, enjoy them, see how you get on with them. You don't have to have a huge watch. And there's plenty of these vintage watches of this size out there. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.